Okay, so this week and next week we're going to talk about the topic of Tish, which falls on Shabbos, because you could say it's really a two-part topic. First, you have to see when Tish falls out on Shabbos, so like it happens this year. So the 9th of Av is going to be, 2 Shabbos from now. So we're not going to fast on the 9th of Av, we fast on the Sunday on the 10th of Av. So when the 9th of Av falls out on Shabbos, so it's really, there are two questions. How does that affect Shabbos, or does it affect Shabbos? I know we're not fasting on Shabbos, but does that mean there's no resemblance of Tish at all, or is that going to affect Shabbos on somehow? And then the other question is, how does that affect the fast on Sundays? The fast on Sunday going to be different, and different meaning perhaps more lenient than a regular Tish B'Av. So I want to start off more just get maybe a bit of a conceptual understanding of what's going on here, just to look to see when is the appropriate day to fast in Av. So what do I mean? So if you look here, I want to see here a few, or at least two Gemaras and some Rishonim as well. So the Gemara here in Tainis is talking about Tish B'Av. The Mishnah mentions that there's 5 different events that we commemorate on Tish B'Av: the sin of the Meraglim, the destruction of 2 temples, the destruction of Beitar, and there's one more, which I'm blanking out on. Okay, I'm sorry. But either way, so what happens is, the Gemara here is discussing when is the day that we should be fasting. So source number 1, let's start there. Charav habayis barishona. So in the first time of the first Beit Midrash, so the Beit Midrash was destroyed on Tish B'Av. Well, Tichsiv quotes the following pasuk: V'chodesh hachamishi. Chodesh hachamishi is the month of Av, the 5th month. B'shiva lachodesh, on the 7th of the month. Hishnas chasrei shana lamelech Nebuchadnezzar melech Bavel, in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. Ba Nebuzaradan Rav Tabachim Eved Melech Bavel Yerushalayim. So Nebuzaradan came by Yisrop as Beis Hashem, and he came and he burned down the Beit Midrash. Uchsiv, but there's another pasuk which writes as follows: V'chodesh chamishi be'asor lachodesh, on the 10th of the month. Hishnas chasrei shana lamelech Nebuchadnezzar melech Bavel, in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. Ba Nebuzaradan Rav Tabachim amad lifnei melech Bavel b'Yerushalayim. So the problem is you have 2 psukim which indicate that Nebuzaradan came and destroyed the Beit Midrash. One says it was on the 7th of Av, one says on the 10th of Av. So V'tanya Efshar Lomar B'Shiva. So how you can't say it was on the 7th of Av, Sharik Far Nemar B'Asor, because it told us it was on the 10th. V'Efshar Lomar B'Asor, Sharik Far Nemar B'Shiva. So when are we fasting? 7th or the 10th? Notice how nowhere in here do we see the 9th. Yeah. So HaKetzad. So what happened? What were the events? What was the series of events? B'Shiva nichnasu nochrim laheichal. So on the 7th they entered in to the Beit Hamikdash, v'achlu v'kilkelu bo, and they went, they ate in there and they desecrated it. B'Shivi on the 7th, Shmini on the 8th, Uchi. Uchi samuch l'chashecha. Sorry, so the 9th, towards the end of the 9th of Av, hitzitu bo esa'ur. So that's when they lit the Beit Hamikdash on fire. V'haya dolek v'holech chol hayom kulo, and it burned. Again, this happened towards the end of the 9th, and it burned for the whole day, meaning the whole 10th. Shnamar oy lanu kifana hayom kinatut chalei erev. So they burned it towards the end of the 9th, and it continued to burn throughout the 10th of Av. So that's how you reconcile the 7th and the 10th. They came on the 7th, they desecrated it, they ate in there. Towards the end of the 9th, they burned it, and then on the 10th, it really burned. So V'hainu Damar Rabbi Yochanan, this way Rabbi Yochanan says, Ilmale hayisi be'oso ador, if I had lived in that generation, lo kivati ve'ela ba'asiri, I actually we wouldn't be fasting on the 9th of Av, we would have fasted on the 10th of Av. Why? Because most of the Beit Midrash was destroyed and burned on the 10th of Av, so I would have made the fast day for the 10th. The Rabbanan aschalta de puranasa adifa. The Rabbanan say, no, we prefer to go after, we want to commemorate the beginning of the tragedy. The beginning of it, when did it take place? On the 9th, because that's when the fire was lit. So even though it burned throughout the 10th, they established it to be on the 9th. So you see already from the beginning here that there's this tension of when Tish B'Av should it be on the 9th, should it be on the 10th. Rabbi Yochanan thought it should be on the 10th, but the Rabbanan decided it should be on the 9th. That's one Gemara. We go to source number 2 for a second Gemara. Amar Rabbi Chanina. So the first 2 cases here aren't going to be relevant. Rabbi Natan etziah b'Purim. He planted a tree on Purim. V'rachat b'kronon shel tzipori b'shivasar b'Tammuz. And he went and he went to the bathhouse on Shivasar b'Tammuz. Again, these are things which went against what the Chachamim believed, but those are not our topic right now. Ubikesh lakor Tisha B'Av. So Rabbi wanted to uproot, he wanted to get rid of Tisha B'Av. He wanted to, seemingly, what does that mean? Bikesh lakor. He wanted to get rid of the fast, no more Tisha B'Av. Below hodulo. So in all these cases, the Chachamim didn't agree with Rabbi. So Amar Lefanav Rabbi Abba Bar Zavda. So Rabbi Abba Bar Zavda comes and says, Rabbi lo hachaya ma'aseh. That was not the story. It's not that Rabbi actually wanted to get rid of Tisha B'Av. What was the case? Ela Tisha B'Av shechal lios b'Shabbos haba. The case that Rabbi was dealing with was this year, Tisha B'Av, which falls out on Shabbos. V'dachinuhu la'achar Shabbos. So the Chachamim said you can't fast on Shabbos, so you're going to fast on Sunday. V'amar Rabbi. So in that case, Rabbi said, Hoil v'nidche yidche. So Rabbi thought maybe once you're pushing it off, once we can't fast on the 9th, no point to fasting on the 10th. And to that, v'lo hodu Chachamim. The Chachamim didn't agree with Rabbi. So Tosfos here asks the question, he says, what was even the Havamina to think? How could you possibly ever think that Rabbi wanted to get rid of Tisha B'Av? Could that actually have been what the Gemara thought, that Rabbi wanted to actually get rid of Tisha B'Av? If anything, you would think maybe get rid of the other fast days. Why Tisha B'Av? So Tosfos here in source number 3, after the bold, he says, Kasha. How could you possibly think Rabbi actually wanted to get rid of Tisha B'Av? The Gemara tells us, if anybody eats and drinks on Tisha B'Av, they're never going to be comforted by Yerushalayim. They're never going to see the rebuilding of Yerushalayim. And beyond that, that one based in one court cannot, or one set of rabbis cannot just decide, okay, this decree that was made a few hundred years ago doesn't apply anymore, we're going to get rid of it. You can only do that if the generation which you're in now currently is greater in wisdom, they knew more than their predecessors, and also b'minyan, meaning that there were more, let's say, Talmidei Chachamim around. So that wasn't the case. We generally that's not the case in later generations. So how could it be? I mean, it could be, but often that's not the case. So how could you possibly ever thought that Rabbi wanted to get rid of Tisha B'Av? So v'yesh lomar, perhaps lo ratza lo okra el michum rashish bo yosef mishar taniyos. Maybe what he wanted to do is say it shouldn't be so strict, right? The same way we have Shivas B'Tammuz only begins, and it was a long day, but only began in the day, ended at night, and the only restrictions are really eating and drinking. So maybe that's what Rabbi tried to do. That's one. Inami, or perhaps what did he try to do? Yesh lomar derat lo okra michi l'kavo basiri. It wasn't that he wanted to get rid of it and not put it on any other day. He wanted to get rid of it on the 9th and put it on the 10th, Kedama Rabbi Yochanan, like we saw Rabbi Yochanan in the previous Gemara, Ilu Havai Haslam Kavate Be'asiri. If I was there at the time, I would have established it on the 10th day of Av. So we see here Rabbi Yochanan wanted to establish Tisha B'Av on the 10th. Rabbi, according to Tosfos here, wanted to do that as well. So we see here that there is significance to the 10th of Av being somewhat of a day of mourning. If you look in source number 4, the truth is the 10th of Av is a bit of a day of mourning. When we talk about the 9 days, it's not really 9 days, it's really 9.5 days. So look in source number 4, or starting with 10 days. So towards the end of the 9th of Av, that's when the fire was lit in the Beit Midrash. V'nisraf ad shkias hachama b'yom asiri, and it burned throughout the 10th of Av. Umipnei kach, because of that, min hakasher, it's a proper custom, shlo lechol basar for shlo lishtos yain b'leil asiri b'yom asiri. It's appropriate not to eat meat and not to drink wine throughout the 10th of Av, because that was when the Beit Midrash was burning, so that should also have somewhat, you could say, quasi-day of mourning. And the Ramah writes, V'yesh machmirim ad chatzos v'lo yoser. There are those who are machmir until midday and not beyond that, and that is the custom that we have nowadays to be stringent until midday of the 10th of Av.
That includes laundry? I forget.
So he only says here meat and wine, but I'm pretty sure if you look in the Mishnah Berurah others, I think they include everything else in there as well, haircuts, etc. And so I'm pretty sure that's all included. Maybe I'm mistaken. So we see here, from what do we see here, that even though we fast on the 9th, there is somewhat of we see that there was tension. There seems to be an argument whether it should be the 9th or the 10th, and even though we fast on the 9th, we still have some sort of mourning on the 10th. So based on that reasoning, and we'll see some more which might support that, maybe we can suggest that when you have a Tisha B'Av which falls out on Shabbos, that might be different than, let's say, maybe another fast day which falls on Shabbos, which we'll push off to Sunday. Let's Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. Why? Because it could be, there's two ways we can look at it. When we talk about pushing off Tisha B'Av from the 9th until the 10th, and we're going to see practically how this plays out in different areas of halacha, we can be doing one thing. We can say that Tisha B'Av, you can either say that whatever we can do, Tisha B'Av really is still on the 9th. So whatever we can do on the 9th on Shabbos, which isn't all that much, since that's really Tisha B'Av, we're going to commemorate Tisha B'Av. Since we can't fast do everything else, so we're going to push it off to the next day. But really, the 9th of Av is still what we're going to consider Tisha B'Av. Or another way to look at it is to say, no.
You can't have mourning on Shabbos.
Well, you can have some types of mourning. You can have B'tzina, you can mourn privately. You can't mourn publicly. The other way to look at it is to say no, that once Tisha B'Av is pushed off, we're going to push it off. We're going to completely uproot it and say it's no longer on the 9th of Av, it is on the 10th of Av. And especially based on the source that you see here, once the 10th of Av already, let's say, a candidate for the day of Tisha B'Av, maybe once we're going to decide to push it off from the 9th, there might be reason to say that in such a case, there's really 2 days for Tisha B'Av. So always it's on the 9th. When we can't make it on the 9th, we're going to say, okay, Tisha B'Av this year is on the 10th, but the full Tisha B'Av is on the 10th, and there's no longer any, let's say, semblance of Tisha B'Av that remains on the 9th of Av. Right, in this case would be Shabbos. I think something else which could support that is look in source number 5, in the Minchas Chinuch. Minchas Chinuch writes, the Dalit Somos Halalu, the 4 fasts that we have to commemorate the destruction of the Beit Midrash, Midivrei Kabbalah. They are Midivrei Kabbalah, which means that they're found in the Nevi'im. They're found in the pasuk in Zechariah. So that's generally a higher level even than a D'Rabbanan, because it's found, in the time of the Nevi'im. But when it comes to all these fast days, and I think I mentioned this when we talked about flying on the fast day, Ein nikva lahem yom miyuchad yud teves o Tisha B'Av. There was the pasuk there never says that when you fast in the month of Teves, you fast on the 10th day of Teves, or when you fast in the month of Av, you fast on the 9th of Av. V'chadome. Rak adivrei kabbalahu al elah chodashim. All the Navi tells us in which months you have to fast. In all those months, you are required to fast 1 day. Aval lo nisyached yom miyuchad, but they never established what day it was. Rak eze yom sherotze yachol lisanos. Seemingly, it was up to everybody to kind of choose. Okay, the month of Av we're going to commemorate the destruction. I'm going to fast 1 day. Rak be'elo chadashim. Right. V'raya ledavar. What's the proof for this? The pasuk came before Eze Yom Klal. The pasuk never mentions anything about a specific days. Rak tzom haravi, tzom hachamishi, tzom ha'asiri, dahainu ha'chadashim. Avalo be'eze yom. They never established a specific date in terms of Midivrei Kabbalah. When the pasuk in Zechariah talks about the fast days, it never established a specific date for when you have to fast. And I mentioned we see certainly for Shiva Asar B'Tammuz how that changed. In the time of the first Beit Midrash, Shiva Asar B'Tammuz wasn't Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, it was on the 9th of Tammuz. So I'm assuming people would have fasted around the 9th of Tammuz. Once the second Beit Midrash came along, it happened on the 17th, so the Rabbanan decided to do it on the 17th of Tammuz. 17th of Tammuz. So I think, again, I'm not saying that nowadays, especially now, it's been established when the dates are, but when you use this together with the previous source as well, maybe you'll see once we have this idea, which I guess theoretically would work for Shiva Asar B'Tammuz also, so before I tried to distinguish, but when you add this to before, the first I said that the Tisha B'Av maybe could be on the 9th or the 10th. So maybe in a year, when we have to push it off on the 9th and 10th, we'll say Tisha B'Av is no longer on the 9th, and we're going to take all of the laws that come together with it and put it on the 10th. And then I would combine that even with the Minchas Chinuch here, talking about the fact that when it comes to the original source of these fast days, it was never given on a specific date. Even though, again, now it's been established on a specific date, now when we can't fast on Shabbos as well, maybe we can say we take all the laws we're going to take all the laws that would apply on Tisha B'Av, and it's no longer going to be Tisha B'Av, we're going to put it on to the 10th of Av. So that's a bit of the background and a bit of the conceptual understanding that might help us understand. I'm going to skip source number 6 for now. 4 different halachos here that are going to be affected by this question. Again, I started off this year saying that the idea of Tisha B'Av, which falls on Shabbos, is a 2-part question. How does it affect Shabbos? Then how's it going to affect Sunday? Is the fast on Sunday going to be different than a regular? So today we're going to deal with the first part of that question. So how's that going to affect the Shabbos aspect?
So presumably Monday there's no issue at all.
So on Monday, exactly. So normal year we said that, and I'll talk about that next week a bit, but normally on a fast day you have to go until midday the next day because we go into the 10th. This year the 10th is when we're fasting. So the truth is, this is the one specific area. You're still allowed to have meat and wine that night. That's like a separate halakha in terms of having a fast day and then having meat and wine that same night. Not a regular fast day, but a fast day at the severity of Tisha B'Av. But it's true. Beyond that, already at night you can shave right after Tisha B'Av. You can shave and do laundry, etc. So we'll talk about that a bit next week. So look at source number 7. So here we're going to source number 7. Here there's going to be a pattern in most of these cases. Here I'm going to bring the Shulchan Aruch. Then I'm going to bring the Magen Avraham, who's a commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch is generally Sfard. Magen Avraham generally is Ashkenaz. And then the Aruch HaShulchan. We're going to show how the Shulchan Aruch and Magen Avraham are pretty consistent in their opinions. Aruch HaShulchan, who's more contemporary, is the beginning of the 20th century, into the 19th, is going to flip back and forth a little bit. So, source number 7. Im Chal Tisha B'Av B'Shabbos. This year. Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos. Mutar B'chulan. Because there are 5 things we can't do on Tisha B'Av. You can't eat, drink, rechitza, shlicha. You can't wash yourself. You can't anoint yourself. Tashmi Shamita, that's what's mentioned right here. Being intimate with your wife. And
shoes and leather. And
thank you. And wearing leather shoes. So on Shabbos, Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbos. Mutar B'chulan. Everything is mutar except Afilu B'Tashmi Shamita. Why Afilu B'Tashmi Shamita? Because Tashmi Shamita, when it comes to mourning, when it comes to the laws of Avelus, so mentioned before, there are no law. Many of the laws of Avelus on Shabbos are suspended. However, those are only the things Dvarim Parhesia. Anything which is public, you don't have to show public displays of mourning on Shabbos. However, it is permitted to Dvarim Shebetzina. To have, to privately show signs of mourning is not a problem on Shabbos. So Tashmi Shamita is certainly something which is private. So what the Shulchan Aruch is telling us here, in Chal Tisha B'Av B'Shabbos, everything's permitted, even Tashmi Shamita. The Rama writes, V'yesh osrim Tashmi Shamita v'chein nogin. However, there are those who forbid Tashmi Shamita on Shabbos. Again, when Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbos, v'chein nogin, and that is the custom. So what's going on? So what does Shulchan Aruch say? The Shulchan Aruch is telling us that when Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos, it's not Tisha B'Av. There's nothing related to Tisha B'Av on the day. So therefore, everything's going to be permitted, even Tashmi Shamita, which is B'tzina, because it's no longer Tisha B'Av, and that's permitted on any other day during the 9 weeks. And the Ramah comes along and seems to say, no, but Yesh Osrim, there are those who say it is forbidden. If you look in source number 8, the Magen Avraham, he's commenting, talking about this, V'yesh Osrim, Umachriz Hashamash Devarim Shebetzina Noheg. And the Gabbai up in Shul mentions, he gets up and says, everyone should know Devarim Shebetzina, any matters of mourning which are done privately, you should do on this day. What he mentions here at the end of Pasuk B'Shlati Nizdam Nalil Tfilasa B'Lel Shabbizo Tovelis Mishameshesh Yeslisbach Asfar Rishona. If a woman goes to mikvah on this Friday night, Friday night of Tisha B'Av, so then there's room to be lenient. It's only a custom that would override it. But here you see this argument between the Shulchan Aruch and the Magen Avraham, which could say maybe it's an argument between Sfard and Ashkenaz, where the Sfardim seem to be saying there's no Tisha B'Av on Shabbos whatsoever. Since there's no Tisha B'Av, even Tashmi Shamita would be a mutter. The Ashkenaz said no, that's not the case. Dvarim Shebetzina we're going to have the custom to do any Dvarim Shebetzina, whatever we can, any acts of mourning which are done privately, we will observe. And this certainly falls under Dvarim Shebetzina, and therefore it will be, it's better not to do it. And the Aruch HaShulchan here is going to agree in this case with Magen Avraham. B'Shabbos shechal bo Tisha B'Av v'nidche k'mo shemutar b'achila u'shtiya k'mo chein mutar v'tashmi shamita. So this is like, first is quoting the Shulchan Aruch. Everything's mutar. V'yesh osrim tashmi shamita, and there are those who say it's forbidden. V'chein noagin, that's the custom. V'hashemesh v'hashamash machriz la'afar tfilas arbi svar shebetzina noheg. And the Gabbai gets up after shul and mentions, anything which is observed in private should be done. So here it seems to be, it's quoting both opinions, but I think it seems to be citing the Aruch Shulchan as Ashkenaz with the Magen Avram in that respect. So that is what I'll call, one nafka mina number one practical difference. When does Tish B'Av fall out? Is Tish B'Av this year, do we take all the laws and put on the 10th, or do we do on the 9th and just push off everything else to the 10th? Next, we'll call nafka mina. Again, the Shulchan Aruch. We're going to expect the Shulchan Aruch always to be lenient here and say Shabbos should be regular. So, imchal Tish B'Av be'echad b'Shabbos. Oh, shechal b'Shabbos v'nidche la'achar Shabbos. So, if Tish B'Av falls out on Sunday, or it falls out on Shabbos and it's pushed off till after Shabbos, ochel basar b'shosa yain b'suda hamapsekes. You can eat meat. Your last meal, there's no suda hamapsekes. Well, classic suda hamapsekes when it falls on Shabbos. So you can eat meat on Shabbos. You can drink wine on Shabbos. Umale al shulchan. You can have afilu yad kesuda shlomo beis malchusa. You can have a meal the same way Shlomo HaMelech had a meal when he was the king. So your Shabbos meal should not be affected by. Well, here it's mentioning if Tish B'Av is on Sunday. Really the 9th of Av is on Sunday, but even if the 10th of Av is on Sunday, the 9th of Av is Shabbos, doesn't affect your Shabbos meal. You can have a regular meal, everything is normal. But the Magen Avram, verse number 11, not so fast. Not everything should be totally normal. Kisuda Shlomo, he says, Mikol Makom, Yeshe Bedavas Nefesh, you should sit with a bit of a slumped head, you shouldn't be so happy. Shlo Yinog B'Simcha, this shouldn't really be such a happy meal. You should realize this is still Tish B'Av, this is still the 9th of Av, shouldn't be having a regular day. Vilachein, he says, Lo Yeshe B'Sudas Chaverim. You shouldn't maybe, I don't know exactly what it means, B'Sudas Chaverim, if it's something specific, but it probably means you shouldn't have guests. This isn't a Shabbos to invite over, all your friends. Okay, we'll leave it at that. So again here you see the same idea. Shulchan Aruch is saying no Tish B'Av at all on Shabbos, have a regular meal. Magen Avram is saying, I'm not so sure about that. It shouldn't be the happiest of meals, maybe shouldn't have guests. He's certainly, again, because he probably believes that the Shabbos still has some traces of Tish B'Av within it, and therefore whatever you can, you should try to observe. And here again, Aruch HaShulchan, Imchal Tish B'Av be'echad b'Shabbos, o shechal b'Shabbos. So again, if Tish B'Av falls on Sunday or on Shabbos, b'nidche liyom rishon, ochel basar b'shosa yain b'suda mapsekas u'mal shulchan afilu k'suda shlomo b'shaito. So it starts off like, that's all the Shulchan Aruch. Umikol makom lo yinog b'simcha k'v'shari Shabbos. It shouldn't be as happy as you are on the other Shabboses. But lo yishe b'sudas chaverim. Don't have all your friends over. So here as well. So here Aruch HaShulchan again seems to be siding with the Magen Avram. So same idea, same principle. What is Tish B'Av? Is Tish B'Av only on the 10th now, or is it really on the 9th and we just push off a little to the 10th? So same, Shulchan Aruch is saying no, it's always on the 10th, and therefore your meal should be normal, and Tashmi Mita will be mutter. Magen Avram says no. Let's go to, say, nafka mina number 3, the third practical difference. The Ramah writes, V'nagu shelo lilmod. Okay, I think this Ramah, we'll see this Ramah, I don't think it's so relevant to our time, but V'nagu shelo lilmod be'erev Tish B'Av mechatzos va'ilach. So on Tish B'Av itself, we're restricted in terms of what Torah we learn. You should only learn things which are related to the fast day. So he says the custom is on Erev Tish B'Av from midday already you shouldn't be learning anything which any regular Torah, because the idea is that learning Torah makes you happy. I see all the smiles on the face as we're learning that. So ki'im b'dvarim hamutarim b'Tish B'Av. So after Chatzos and Erev Tish B'Av you can only learn that which is permitted to learn Tish B'Av. V'lachein imchal b'Shabbos ein omrim Pirkei Avos. He says therefore if Erev Tish B'Av falls out on Shabbos, so you should learn Pirkei Avos at night. And B'chein lo yitayel Erev Tish B'Av. And you should also not go ahead and take a nice stroll on Erev Tish B'Av. It's not appropriate to be done. So this was all really talking about when, not our case, that's talking about when the 9th of Av falls on Sunday, and this is the 8th of Av. So the Magen Avram here, source number 14, it says, Im Kain, Kal v'chomer, he says, Im Chal Tish B'Av b'Shabbos. So certainly if we're going to be restricted in terms of our learning when the 9th of Av, when the 8th of Av is on Shabbos, so if the 9th of Av is on Shabbos, certainly we're going to be restricted, Sha'asar lilmod kol hayom, that we're not going to be able to learn on Shabbos itself you can't have your daf yomi shir, you can't have anything else. It's forbidden to learn on Tish B'Av. This also can be something which is Dvarim Shabbatinat. The Magen Avraham is saying, so don't learn anything which you can't learn on Tish B'Av itself on the Shabbos. Ve'od dehatan Dvarim Shabbatinat nohei kamoshkata siman taknad sifyo tes. We saw that already. Uvechuvas moram lublin kasav imchal Tish B'Av b'Shabbos. If it falls out on Shabbos, mutter lilmod. It's permitted to learn. Why? So this is the dissenting opinion. The tashmish gufa chumri yisirei. The only reason we're strict for intimacy is because that's an extra stringency. But when it comes to learning Torah, there's no reason we should add on to that stringency. The Tzarech Iyon, he says, Shalohevi divrei Rama, so he doesn't understand why he doesn't bring the words of the Rama. Miu b'tshuvas maharil kasa v'zeleshono, Tish B'Av shechal b'Shabbos, asa lilmod achar chatzos, kimo b'chol. So the Maharil says that when Tish B'Av falls on Shabbos, so you're only restricting your learning after chatzos on Shabbos. Mashma, to kodem chatzos mutter. Why? Because according to him, the Tish B'Av is really, you could say, is on the next day. So only from chatzos, only from midday the previous day, you're going to be restricted. The same day you're restricted from chatzos, and the other day before Tish B'Av. V'nireli hatam, and he explains the reason why. Kevan shenidcha nidcha. Exactly what we said. Once it's pushed off, it's fully pushed off. Tish B'Av is no longer on Shabbos; it's only on Sunday. Ve'ein lo din Tish B'Av, and there is no laws of Tish B'Av are going to apply in the Shabbos. Rak din erev Tish B'Av. Now the Shabbos only has the laws of erev Tish B'Av. Since it only has laws of erev Tish B'Av, you're only going to be restricting your learning from midday and on. It's true, it's on Tish B'Av. He says when it comes to Tashmish Mita, you should still be machmir for that. Aval b'darchei Moshe hevi b'tshuvas ma'aril erev Tish B'Av shechal b'shah. Okay, here he gets into a girsa issue. We're gonna not deal with that right now.
So he's saying on Shabbos you're allowed to learn things that you would learn on Tish B'Av. So are you not? Isn't that not a problem? Shabbos versus making yourself sad.
So I guess the question is, is it B'tzina? If it's B'tzina, saying today is still Tish B'Av,
right.
So it can't be sad, but you still have your meal. We said before B'tavas Nefesh. What exactly is that? I mean, it's hard to know what exactly you should be feeling, but we see here again in the Magen Avraham quoting these opinions that he actually quotes both sides of the opinion. What to do in terms of your learning. Should you be restricted should be restricted the whole day because it's still Tish B'Av, or no, to be treated like erev Tish B'Av and only from midday and on.
Midday Shabbos afternoon.
Midday Shabbos afternoon. Yeah, the Aruch HaShulchan here, by Bronze Source number 15. I'm not going to do that right now, but here, I think in general, he says on erev Tish B'Av, and I tend to agree. I would say, I would tend to like to agree with his opinion. He says, I don't think we should be restricting people's Talmud Torah. He says, okay, on Tish B'Av itself, I understand we should be strict. He says, what are you going to tell people? Somebody's going to go to their daf yomi shir. Okay, you can't go to daf yomi shir today, but we're going to have a special shir about Tish B'Av. You're going to get a quarter of the people show up, if maybe. He says, people like to learn what they normally learn. If you're going to start telling them, okay, you can't learn this, you have to learn something else, they're not going to learn altogether. So the Aruch HaShulchan in general, is leaning to the side to say that in regular year, forget the Shabbos aspect of it, don't necessarily be so strict when it comes to erev Tish B'Av. You're learning, on Tish B'Av itself, I understand, on erev Tish B'Av, you can probably learn regularly. So that is not Gemina.
What about eating with friends or having company on Shabbos?
Does that mean that Spartam can only invite Spartam?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question. The question is Sudas Chaverim is that kind of two friends over, you shouldn't have a big party. I would say Sudas Chaverim is a bit unclear. What exactly that means. I see it going both ways, but either way.
It doesn't have to do with the Mizuman, does it?
No, I don't think so. No, that's a Sudas Mafsekes. That's what you all use separately, but I don't think that's necessarily what's applying here. So that's Nafka Mina number 3. Again, in terms of learning, how should we learn on the Shabbos? And the last one is also an interesting one. Again, when is Tish B'Av? We're saying when Tish B'Av falls on Shabbos, do we uproot the whole day and then put it on the Sunday, or do we still say that Shabbos is Tish B'Av and we just push off whatever to the Sunday? So for Ashkenazim, this isn't a real. Doesn't have real significance, but for Sephardim it certainly does. That's because for Ashkenazim, we have laws that begin at 3 weeks and then during the 9 days. But for Sephardim, they generally only observed the customs Shavua Shechalbo, the week of Tisha B'Av. So the question is, in a year like this, is there a Shavua Shechalbo? What is this Shavua Shechalbo? So he quotes two opinions here in the Shulchan Aruch, in source number 16. Okay, after the fast day, okay, so here he explicitly says that you can get a haircut and do laundry right away, even though before he said you shouldn't eat meat and wine. I'm pretty sure we're machmir on that. But v'im chal Tisha B'Av b'yom rishon, o b'Shabbos v'nidchal achar Shabbos. Says that Tisha B'Av falls out on Sunday. Or it falls out on, and this is a more important case for us, Shabbos is pushed off to Sunday. Mutter b'shtei Shabbosos. There is no Shavua Shechalbo. You can do everything the week before and everything the week after, right? Bein shekodem ataynis, bein shacharav. Since the fast, so what's this opinion telling you? Even when the fast falls on Shabbos and we push on Sunday, we're saying really the fast is now on Sunday. So therefore, the week before is not Shavua Shechalbo because the fast is on the Sunday, and then after the Tisha B'Av itself, so then everything is mutter. So there is no Shavua Shechalbo. It says v'yesh misha omer. However, there are those who say shenagu lesser kol Shavua l'shelafanav. There are those who say no, that the Shavua and that the whole week before is forbidden. Now, what a case is talking about, the Magen Avraham clarifies in source number 17. He says that's only talking about the case when it falls out on Shabbos and is pushed off to Sunday. If it falls out on Sunday, says everybody agrees there's no Shavua Shechalbo. However, when it falls on Shabbos and is pushed off to Sunday, so there are those who say there is a Shavua Shechalbo. So how are you going to explain this argument as well? So I think very well, based on this initial analysis we had. If we say that Tisha B'Av is really stays on Shabbos and we just push off whatever Kanto Shabbos to Sunday, so therefore Tisha B'Av is on the Shabbos, so the whole week before that is the week when Tisha B'Av falls out, and that everything will be restricted. If you believe that no, really we're uprooting it for the 9th and putting it on the 10th, seems to be that there is no Shavua Shechalbo because that week is just only the next week, and once Tisha B'Av is over, none of these customs apply anymore. So just to sum up, again, set to finish now, or 2 minutes ago. So the issue is, when we push off Tisha B'Av, how do we view it? We view it all on Sunday. We view it all as all the laws are pushed off. But wherever we can on Shabbos, we do, and then everything else we'll do on the Sunday. So it seems to be certainly the Shulchan Aruch and the Magen Avraham are pretty consistent. Where the Shulchan Aruch is the Sephardi is strict, and he says is lenient, and he says no, Shabbos it's not Tisha B'Av at all, no mourning at all on the Shabbos. As opposed to the Magen Avraham and the Ashkenazi ones who seem to, although if you look in the Aruch Shulchan and the Mishnah Berurah, they seem to flip-flop back and forth depending on the case, so they're not as consistent, but the Magen Avraham certainly is consistent, saying that no, that Shabbos is going to, whatever is still Dvarim Shabbatzina, still Tisha B'Av, we should still be more of a somber day. So that sums up a lot of the issues, how Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbos affects Shabbos. Next week I want to talk about how it affects Sunday, i.e. can it be more lenient in cases, for example, of a bris milah on the Sunday, cases for pregnant and maybe nursing women and others who need to break their fast. And then also just some of the more practical things, what to do, when Tisha B'Av, Shabbos goes into Sunday, in terms of Havdalah and other issues like that.